Hey everyone, how we doing? It's Silverback, aka John, aka 7800 Pro Gamer. So today I'm playing a game. I promised at the end of the last video, if anybody made it that far, that I would play a game with dragons in it. And this was not the game I was talking about, but I'm working on something special for that game. So to tide everybody over, I thought I'd do a little game called Ninja Golf here. So Ninja Golf, to start with the development, Ninja Golf was developed by Blue Sky Software and published by Atari back in 1990. The developers were two people essentially, so Blue Sky Software, but only two people are credited for the game that I know of. One being David Dent. And David Dent's kind of an interesting story. He doesn't have many credits that I found, but he has some cool things. So he does have a website, and he is currently lead programmer at Retroactive Games. He worked for Cinematronics for a while. He did games like Cosmic Chasm, Freeze, Infomania, Mayhem 2002, World Series, The Season, Alley Master. At Blue Sky Software, he did Ninja Golf, and later he did Clax that was released later, so that was pretty cool. He also worked on World Series Baseball for quite a few years for the Sega Genesis, and he went on to do some PlayStation and Xbox games, but most recently he's currently working at Retroactive Games, and he's doing some cell phone stuff. He eventually released Clax. It was an unreleased game for the 7800, and it came out in, I believe, 2002 or 3. And that was one of his too, and Clax actually turned out really good. So David Dent is pretty amazing on the 7800. He also programmed this game alongside a person named David R. Sullivan. And David R. Sullivan has went on to work on, it seems like, every game ever. He did the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance games 1 and 2, MDK2. All these were Director of Technology credits. He did Death Jr. 2, Root of Evil as a technical director, Hunter the Reckoning on Xbox as Director of Technology, Run Like Hell on the Xbox and PlayStation, Wing Commander, WWE 2K17, Sid Meier's Civilization 4, I believe that is, Mafia 3, Bioshock Remastered 1 and 2, XCOM 2, Bioshock Infinite, Burial at Sea, The Bureau, XCOM Declassified. I mean, just lots and lots of games. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, a port that is in the 2000s, but still Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. All these are like lead engineer, director of technology, some programming credits for Giant Citizen Kabuto. So he's worked on like everything that I've come to enjoy. He also has an additional programming credit for Mario is Missing. How interesting is that? So, but Ninja Golf is probably my favorite thing that he or anybody ever has worked on, because Ninja Golf sounds like the most video game ever. I would expect to turn on an episode of The Simpsons and see them talking about a game called Ninja Golf. I could see Milhouse saying, "Hey Bart, I just got Ninja Golf. You want to play?" As like a joke, but it's not a joke. It's an actual game. And Ninja Golf was actually, when I got back into collecting for the 7800, it was one of those games that I just had to have. It's just so weird and crazy and wacky that how can you not love it? So as you can see in the gameplay here, in lieu of putting, we're fighting dragons. So again, how cool is that? And it's an over-the-shoulder view, kind of like the other Ninja game, Shinobi, and the bonus levels and stuff. It seems to be somewhat inspired by that, or if not, it just happens to be similar to. So the actual golfing there, as you can see, is really simple. You just hit the button when the ball is as far out as as you feel safe in letting it go. The risk is if you let it go too far out, it might cycle back in and you might hit a short shot and get a bad score. But there's also other ninjas that you have to fight, gophers that throw stuff at you, and then you have several pickups you can get. The pickups are usually ninja stars. You get a potion that brings back some of your health, not much, but a little bit. You can also get a med pack, which is just a square with the typical Red Cross symbol on it. I believe that heals your health fully, or if not, it restores a large chunk of health. Then you can... These other drops are really rare. You can get the shield, which makes you invulnerable for 15 seconds. You can get an extra man, which looks like a men's bathroom stall symbol. And you can also get, I believe it's an arrow icon that warps you to the end of the level, and you fight the dragon, or it might even warp you to the next level. I've gotten it so few times I can't remember, but there is a variety of items. There's some that I've probably only ever seen once or twice in my 10 years or so of playing this game, so there are some rare occurrences in this game, but it makes it fun. When you finally do get them, it's a treat. And as I said, the other cool part is the different areas you can get into. So on the green, you always fight the gophers and up to 3 different kinds of ninjas. The red ninjas are easiest, the blue ninjas are moderate, and then you have like a see-through ninja that's the hardest to beat. You can go into the water trap, which is really cool. You can go into the rough, which is about the same as the green, but you fight frogs instead of gophers. And you can go into the tree line there too, where you have to avoid birds and fight ninjas. So there's a good... Oh, and the sand trap is really cool too. You get that kind of Egyptian theme playing, and you fight snakes on top of the ninjas. So this game is, if nothing else, it's unique. And also, if you Google Ninja Golf, you might be interested to know that I believe in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, maybe 2006, there was a Flash game remake of it by fans of the game. I checked it out a little bit. It's not really my cup of tea. I prefer the original, but I'm an Atari 7800 nerd, so of course I prefer that to the remake. But it's out there. If you're interested, Google Ninja Golf Flash, and you should be able to at least find some information on it. If you're playing on normal difficulty like this, you can generally fight off the ninjas. If you get the shield, just bypass everything. Use the invulnerability to get to the ball as quickly as you can. But you generally want to take your time, beat the ninjas, jump over the gophers, whatever they're throwing at you, dirt balls, and then give them a low kick. If you have ninja stars, it's usually smart to utilize those either against the ninjas as they're approaching you or the gophers. If you want to try to avoid the enemies, when you hit the ball, you can try to hit it kind of close to the rough, and you can sort of cheat the game by going between the play field and the rough. And as you transition between the screens, it'll bump you ahead a little bit, and you won't have to fight as many enemies. So that's kind of a little cheat that I found while playing the game. The dragons at the end is probably the funnest part for me, shooting the endless ninja stars at them. It gets really annoying at the end. It kind of, as an adult here, it gives me a headache. When I was in my earlier days playing this game, it wasn't so bad, but nowadays the last few dragons really do a number on my eyes. So with the snakes, if you just time it right to where you kick them as they're upright, they shouldn't hit you too much. But again, it's one of those things, when you're fighting the ninjas, it's kind of difficult to time sometimes. You can see here we're doing okay. Collecting the items as they pop up is also key. You don't Unless you're really high in health and it's a small health potion, you can bypass those sometimes, or if you're good on ninja stars. But you want to make sure that you're picking up the invincibility, the ninja stars, and health when you need them. And absolutely, if you see a skip or an extra guy, do whatever it takes to pick those items up. The items are key to beating this game, and even if you're not very skilled at it, if you get the right selection of items, you might find that you can beat the game fairly easily. So keep an eye on when those items drop. And the worst part is when an item drops right as you transition screens, because you don't really have a chance to pick it up. Right at the end of the screens, the game kind of takes over and runs you for the last little bit. So I also find it interesting. So it's Ninja Golf. There's only the one course in the game, and there's only 9 holes. So you would expect there to be like a full 18-hole course, or maybe a selection of maybe 2 different courses. But what's here is really fun and original. I can't help but to love this game. And I know there's some out there who, it's an overly simplistic golf game with a sort of run-of-the-mill side-scrolling beat-em-up style game. So I can see where some people aren't so infatuated with it. If the idea doesn't grasp you, it probably isn't going to be the game for you. But for the rest of us, I mean, what's not to love? Ninjas, golf, ninjas in anything. I mean, what could be cooler? So here we utilize the invincibility right to the end, and then since we're getting ready to transition the screen there, I decided to outrun the ninjas. And that's kind of showing off a little bit of how you can utilize the play field and the rough and the transitions to keep from sustaining a whole lot of damage. You can also, on normal difficulty, you can get lucky and have a few runs where you don't get so many ninjas. That doesn't happen very often, especially in kamikaze difficulty. I have beaten this game in every difficulty. I wanted to record it in kamikaze for you guys, but I just, on this particular day, I wasn't having it, and I wanted to move on to some other stuff. But if there is interest, let me know, and I'll post a kamikaze run. But I'm not even sure how fun that would be to watch, because my strategy in kamikaze is to just outrun the enemies. So rather than stopping and fighting, I try to outrun all the enemies, because what happens is you'll end up stopping and fighting them more than you're moving, and you'll end up losing lives just from the overall number of enemies you're fighting. So I feel the best strategy in kamikaze is just to outrun the enemies, but that might be boring to watch. But if you're interested in beating it in kamikaze, try outrunning the enemies. You might get into a bad rhythm where they kick your butt the whole time, like literally as you're running from them, they'll kick your butt. But if you can get into a good rhythm when you're running away from them, the game isn't so bad. But it just kind of becomes a golf game where you run away from ninjas like a pansy, and who wants to do that? So I think normal is the funnest difficulty to play this game on. And playing it on easy or even hard might be fun. I can't remember the hard difficulty, how hard that actually was. But playing it on easy till you get used to it, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's how I beat it the first time, was on the lowest difficulty. And really all the lowest difficulty does is it waits to show you the harder enemies is really the only thing I remember it doing. It might throw less enemies at you as well. I don't remember 100%. So here we're using a little bit of the screen transition trick. Again, depending, you'll learn where to hit the ball to utilize the screen transition to your advantage. It's just one of those things you got to get the feel for. Now here you can see these dragons really get moving, and it's tough to get, as I lose a life there, it's tough to get the rhythm down. And these dragons do a ton of damage with their fireballs. If you pay attention to the life bar when you get hit, they drain a lot of life. So you want to really avoid getting hit by these dragons if at all possible. But you can see I got into a rhythm for a few hits and then I fell out of rhythm again. And right there, it took away, what, like an eighth of your life bar, so you can maybe get hit 8 times. And if you get into a bad rhythm or you get stuck in the corner of the screen, it's easy to lose your life a lot. So here, I feel like I usually do better against these dragons. I apologize. My rhythm was off this day, I guess. Let me know, guys, if you want more information about how to beat the games. I can definitely focus on that a little more. If you want to know more about the development, I can try to look into that a little bit more. I try to give some general information about who developed the game and what other games they worked on, because I feel like that information isn't very widely known. Not like it is today. Today, every game has a credit scroll and tons of people that worked on them. But back in these days, you really didn't know who worked on the games. And if there was a credit scroll at the end, not many people got to see them. So I always find it interesting to find out what these people did later on in their careers, or even during the same time as these games. And as I said, the 2 guys that worked on this game did some really cool things. So I was happy to learn about it and to maybe inform you guys of what they did. But here, as you get towards the end of the game, again, the enemies respawn so fast that you can take out every enemy you see, but it's a futile effort. It's a losing effort. And in these underwater scenes, I have a hard time against the sharks. I don't know if anybody, maybe the ninja stars are the way to go, but I feel like jumping over the sharks is the best way to get past them. So if anybody has a useful tip for the sharks, for the other people, or for me in the future, let me know in the comments. So here we're fighting a dragon that, again, they generally go fast on their way back to the right, and then they're a little bit slower when they're moving to the left. So you can try to hit them on the left. But if you get a really good rhythm, you can hit them coming back and forth, as I'm demonstrating poorly here. And sometimes if you're having a hard time hitting them on one side of the screen, try shifting over to the other side. Take your time. Make sure you dodge the fireballs, because as I said, those fireballs do a ton of damage. So I would prioritize dodging fireballs over hitting him if you want to survive. So here, this is the last hole where you have to enter pretty much every type of environment. So here you get a little bit of fairway, and then you'll enter the rough, and then the sand trap, the trees, and the water, and finally the putting green. So this kind of forces you to have a good mastery or a good idea of what you're going to encounter in each area. I find the sand traps should honestly probably be the most punishing area, but in this game I find it probably one of the easier areas. Again, just wait for the snake to lift his head up and you shouldn't have too hard of a time. The forest area isn't too difficult either. Just wait for the bird to drop its egg, as I'm demonstrating poorly here, and then move on. But I'm at the end of the game with 2 lives, so I think here I'm probably feeling pretty good. I know I can usually beat the last dragon without losing a life. I don't know if I do here or not. We're back underwater here. And my strategy here, because for me, is to jump over the sharks, so I just avoid the other ninjas as well, as I get kicked in the butt and fall over. But We make it to the last dragon here with 1 life, and he slows down a tad while he's moving back to the left of the screen, but not much. This is definitely the hardest fight. And I think on Kamikaze, he moves lightning quick both ways. I remember him moving quicker than this, I think, but that might be in Kamikaze mode. So again, try to get the rhythm down. Prioritize dodging the fireballs because they really hurt you and they can hit you in a flurry if you're not careful. If you're having trouble on one side of the screen or the fireballs seem to be clustered towards one side, feel free to shift around and find a place where you can get a good rhythm. And see, we started to get into a rhythm, but we had to dodge some fireballs there, so even watching the replay, this is making my eyes burn. So as I get to be an old man, I'm having a harder time playing these games. So I gotta beat them while I still can. A few more hits should do it if I can get them in. Almost. Come on. There we go, we did it. So game completed, we beat another game, we passed the final test, we get to join the ranks of Master Ninjas, and our family will be honored for generations to come. And I'm not going to try to pronounce that last part. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you got a little bit of information, maybe had some fun watching it. We've beat 4 games, and the next game we're going to beat has dragons once again.